The whispered words from my grandson Caleb still echo in my mind. "Grandpa, don't go back into the basement. We have to leave right now." He stood there, a single floorboard lifted, his young face etched with a fear I couldn't comprehend. Just moments before, I'd dismissed my trembling hands and persistent headaches as the inevitable march of age. I had no idea that someone had been meticulously hiding a dark secret beneath my own home for months. I always believed I knew my family better than anyone. I was about to discover how dangerously wrong I had been. It all began subtly, a slow erosion of my sense of self. For 3 months, my mornings had been a ritual of frustration. Standing at the kitchen sink, I'd try to pour coffee, only for my right hand to betray me, sending a thin stream across the counter instead of into my mug. I'd set the pot down, press my palm flat against the cool tile, and wait for the tremor to subside. 3 months of waking with a headache, a dull, rusted nail behind my eyes. 3 months of these small betrayals, adding up to something I couldn't quite name. The doctors, bless their hearts, called it age. 65, they said. Your body's slowing down. Perfectly normal. Nothing to worry about. I'd wipe the spilled coffee and gaze out the window at the maple tree, now a vibrant red, just as Margaret had loved it. She'd stand right where I stood, hands wrapped around her mug, lost in its beauty. 6 months since she'd passed, and I still reached for her mug by mistake, every single morning. Leaving the coffee, I'd retreat to my workshop, a separate pine board haven I'd built myself back in '91. The scent of sawdust and linseed oil always greeted me, a comforting embrace. This was where I'd built my first cabinet, where I'd taught Caleb to cut a dovetail joint when he was just 11. But now, even here, my hands failed me. The white oak chair I'd been crafting for weeks sat half-finished, waiting for steadier hands. My marking gauge, once an extension of my will, now scribed crooked lines. The headache, a constant companion since July, was already there. Then, the gate latch clicked. Gloria Hayes, my neighbor of 14 years, a retired schoolteacher with a garden that shamed the whole street, strode across the yard. She carried a foil-covered plate, a sure sign she'd been baking, a sure sign she was thinking of me. "You didn't answer your phone this morning," she said, pushing the workshop door wider. I called twice. I mumbled an excuse, but she looked at me with that familiar gaze she reserved for students who offered answers she didn't believe. "Raymond, you look like you haven't slept in a week. Have you eaten anything?" She pulled up a stool, uninvited, as she always did. Gloria Hayes was not a woman who waited for permission. She looked at the unfinished chair, then at me, then back at the chair. "How are you? Really?" My throat tightened unexpectedly. I picked up sandpaper, just to give my hands something to do. "I'm fine, Gloria, just tired." "You've been tired since July," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I see your light on, at 2 in the morning sometimes. I see you out here in the dark when you can't sleep. That's not just tired." She was right, and we both knew it. After a moment of silence, she added, "Grant called me last week." My hands froze on the sandpaper. "Did he?" "He asked how you were doing. Said he was worried about you. Said you hadn't been yourself lately." She paused. He was very warm about it, very concerned. The way she emphasized those last 2 words made me look up. Gloria watched me, an unreadable expression on her face, careful, held back. "He's a good son," I said, the familiar phrase rolling off my tongue. Gloria nodded slowly. "Raymond?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. 2 nights ago, Thursday night, there was a car parked on the street in front of your house. Dark sedan, no lights. It was there when I went to bed at 11, and it was still there when I got up at 1 in the morning for a glass of water." She held my gaze. I wrote down the license plate. The sandpaper went completely still in my hands. "I didn't think much of it the first time," she continued. "But it was there the Tuesday before that, too. Same car, I'm almost certain. Same spot." I carefully set the sandpaper down, needing to think clearly. Outside, a gust of wind rustled the maple, sending red leaves drifting past the window. "Did you tell anyone?" I asked. "I'm telling you," she replied. My heart, now doing an uneven dance in my chest, had nothing to do with my age. 2 nights, maybe more, that she hadn't seen. I thought about the dizzy mornings, the headaches arriving like clockwork, the 3 months of feeling like I was living slightly underwater. And then, Grant's phone call 2 days ago, his voice smooth as sanded wood. "How are you feeling, Dad? You sound tired. Maybe it's time to think about making some changes." "Gloria," I said slowly, "you still have that license plate written down?" She reached into her cardigan pocket, pulled out a folded slip of paper, and placed it on the workbench between us. My hand was shaking again when I picked it up. This time, it had nothing to do with my age. 2 days after Gloria gave me that slip of paper, 3 car doors slammed in my driveway. Sunday morning, not yet 9. I was still in my robe, standing at the kitchen counter, having actually managed to fill my mug without spilling. I looked out the front window and felt my stomach drop. Grant, his wife Vivian, and my daughter Diane, they were all here. Grant, ever the politician, was all smiles and concern. Vivian, elegant and sharp, observed everything. Diane, my usually outspoken daughter, was strangely quiet, her eyes darting between me and her husband. They spoke of my health, my memory, my ability to manage the house. It felt less like a visit and more like an interrogation. Grant, with a casual air, slid a piece of paper across the table. "Just a form," he said. "Something the financial advisor asked me to have you look at." I pretended to struggle with the words, then signed it, deliberately making mistakes. The wrong date, my middle name where my first should be. A quick, satisfied flicker in Grant's eyes, gone before he could truly register it. He folded the paper, put it in his pocket, and said nothing about my errors. "You seem tired, Dad," he said, his voice dripping with concern. I made my words slower, more effortful. He nodded sympathetically, then left, squeezing my shoulder with both hands, as if steadying something fragile. I watched his SUV disappear, then rolled my shoulders back, straightened my spine, and made a fresh pot of coffee. Vivian arrived 2 days later, casserole in hand, placing it in my refrigerator without asking. Her warmth felt calculated, like she was checking boxes on a hidden list. She commented twice on my weight loss, asked if I was remembering my medications. I told her I'd taken them all this morning, though I had no prescriptions. She scribbled something in a small notebook, trying to be discreet. I noticed. That evening, Caleb came by to check the camera feeds. As I made coffee, he moved through the house with practiced efficiency, checking each camera, downloading footage, confirming the transmitter was working. He was in the workshop, looking for an extension cable, when I heard him stop. "Grandpa," his voice, strained and urgent, cut through the workshop door. "Come in here." He was crouched by the old storage cabinet, the one with the warped door I always meant to fix. The bottom drawer was open. In his hand, held carefully by the edges, was a piece of paper, a property valuation document. My address on Ridgeline Road. A figure that made my breath catch, $1,140,000. At the bottom, a signature, Vivian Caldwell, licensed real estate broker, North Carolina. And at the top right corner, a date stamp, February 14th, 2024. February, 8 months ago. Margaret had died in April. In February, my wife had still been alive, still sleeping in our bed, still sitting by the window with her book and tea. In February, Vivian had already walked through my house and put a number on it. She must have left it when she came by on Saturday, Caleb said carefully. She must have come into the workshop, set her bag down, and it slipped out. The kind of mistake a careful person makes exactly once, when they think no one is watching. I couldn't speak, not because I had nothing to say, but because there was too much, none of it fit for saying aloud. A cold, nameless understanding moved through my chest, the realization that what I had hoped wasn't true, was. "She priced this house while your grandmother was still breathing," I finally said, my voice flat and level. Caleb stood, his face a complicated mix of emotions. His jaw was tight, his eyes bright and too full. He pressed his lips together hard. "Grandpa, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Don't," I said quietly. "Put it in your truck. Photograph it first, then bag it carefully. Blackwell needs to see it." He nodded, pulling out his phone. I turned and walked back into the kitchen, needing to be somewhere with walls around me. I was bracing myself against the counter when my phone buzzed. Diane. Not Grant's number. Not a group text. Diane. Calling directly. Something she hadn't done in 6 months without Grant present. I picked it up on the third ring. Dad! Her voice was low, uneven, like she was somewhere she didn't want to be overheard. It's about Mom's will. The next few weeks were a blur of legal battles, hushed conversations, and the crushing weight of betrayal. The documents Caleb found, combined with Gloria's license plate number and a carefully orchestrated sting operation by Blackwell, revealed a sickening plot. Grant and Vivian, desperate for money to cover their mounting debts, had planned to declare me incompetent, sell the house, and use the proceeds. They had been slowly poisoning me with a low dose of a common sedative, causing my tremors and headaches, making me appear frail and confused. The financial forms were documents to transfer power of attorney. The house valuation was the first step in their scheme. Diane, horrified by what she uncovered, had secretly been working with Blackwell, gathering evidence against her own husband and sister-in-law. She had been the one to give Caleb the idea of installing cameras. She had been the one to call Gloria, asking her to keep an eye on me. Her call that Sunday morning had been a desperate warning, not an interrogation. The day in court was a painful spectacle. Grant and Vivian, stripped of their carefully constructed facades, faced the consequences of their greed. The judge, after hearing the overwhelming evidence, ruled in my favor. They were disinherited, their names removed from my will, and faced legal repercussions for their actions. Diane, though heartbroken, found a quiet strength in doing what was right. 5 months after the courthouse, the white oak chair was finally finished. I had taken my time with it, fitting the last rail, checking the joints, applying 3 coats of oil finish. It was a good chair, solid, balanced, the grain running clean through every piece. Margaret would have loved it. One Saturday morning in August, Caleb arrived with Sarah Drummond. Sarah was direct, open, and genuine. She shook my hand firmly and looked around the workshop with genuine curiosity. Caleb talks about this workshop like it's a cathedral, she said. It's cleaner than a cathedral, I told her, and the acoustics are better. She laughed, and Caleb looked at her with that slightly amazed look young men get when they're smitten. I recognized it. I'd worn it myself, long ago, next to Margaret. I showed Sarah the finished chair. She ran her hand along the backrest, following the grain with her fingertips. Who's it for? She asked. Nobody yet, I said. Sometimes you build a thing because the building is the point. She nodded as if that made perfect sense, which told me everything I needed to know about her. Caleb helped me carry the chair out to the back porch in the golden afternoon light. We set it facing the yard, toward the tree line where the mountains were visible. I sat in it for the first time, testing the fit, the balance. It held exactly as I had designed it to hold. Diane had called the previous Tuesday, a short call, careful and honest. She was volunteering 3 mornings a week at a senior center. Her son Warren's new treatment was showing better numbers. She asked if she could come by sometime. Not soon, just sometime. I told her the door was the same color it had always been. Gloria Hayes waved from her yard next door, pruning the rose bush she'd been meaning to trim. Some things move slowly, and still arrive exactly when they are meant to. I sat in the chair I had built and looked at the mountains, listening to Caleb and Sarah talking inside the workshop. Her voice and his mixed with the sound of wood and tools, and the afternoon light came down golden and unhurried across the yard. The house was still standing. So was I. This is my family story, and I carry it so you do not have to live one like it. Family betrayal does not arrive like a storm. It arrives like a slow leak, quiet, invisible, until the floor gives out beneath you. I missed the signs. I trusted too easily. I kept peace when I should have asked harder questions. Do not make the same mistake I did. Pastor Williams told me once that God does not give us more than we can carry, but He does expect us to carry it honestly. I understand that now. My personal view is this: blood does not guarantee loyalty. Watch how people treat you when nothing is at stake. That is where the truth lives. This family story taught me that a house is only wood and nails. What matters is who stands beside you when it is threatened. Family betrayal hurts most because it comes from the people who know exactly where you are vulnerable. And surviving it, that is its own kind of grace.